resistance to change environment. So the takeaway, we learn to change by actively changing together.
And at the council level, we're very excited to see that in each of those conferences, new members, the active engagement in the recruitment process, new members started to come in. So we're welcoming them at the meeting, we're asking them, so what brought you to St. Vincent de Paul, and hearing that story and celebrating those successes. With that focus, still continually go through all the meetings. One of the things that has brought about a real positive energy, which really is one of the key outcomes that we have seen, the positive energy in the meetings, is that there's bonds, Vincentian bonds growing. So we've got collaborative groups that work together. So the treasurers get together 2 or 3 times a year, and we talk and make sure that we're all on the same page for treasurers. We've got the social justice group, which get together and they are meeting, and they're meeting other people from the conferences. We hope that we're going to get 100% representation from each of the 12 conferences. These are all things we're working on. We don't have it all sewn up yet for sure. It is a work in progress, but we've got some foundations of positive energy there, and the council is now dynamic, meaning it's moving. We're moving this. And if you're moving and you've got something that's exciting, attractive groups, active groups are attractive groups, that's really for sure. So we've got relationships building, we've got we got everyone together and we did a first aid mental health course. Everyone was quite interested in that. As we all know, the families we help, they're struggling with mental stress that we don't always understand. We sometimes get frustrated with. So it was a great coming together of the members and learning, and that was in a very official way. It's a 16-hour course that we did. We actually have active projects in our council, and we've got funds set aside to help those projects, and those are particularly dental, so that we have helped quite a few people now with root canals that are expensive, with dentures that would not otherwise have been helped. So we help those conferences to be aware of all those mouths that are decaying and root and dental neglect. We've tried to actively help those families. But what that also does, as Linda mentioned, it creates an attractive thinking, a thinking that's a project that brings people forward, a catalyst for bringing new recruits into St. Vincent de Paul, because that's exciting work. That's it's a little bit more. It's very impactful for the families.
Have you had any dentists join showing?
We have some dentists join, but we've also connected and built we're starting to build a good network of dentists that are friendly to St. Vincent de Paul, so they give a 25% discount on fillings. We've got some pro bono work. Yeah, you got it exactly. You ask. You have to ask. If you ask your dentist, will you give a discount for this person because they're struggling and we're helping? Then should strive towards, if you haven't already. It's something other of the particular councils are doing, and it gathers people together, gives an opportunity for professional development. And we have one, we called it Serving Up Hope, and this year it's going to be our 4th one. And last year we had a resources carousel. We invited 4 members, experts from the community in employment, in food, in activities, summer activities for the kids, and there was another one, I can't remember, oh, the local school for continuing education. And so we all got up, we all went around and we spoke to those experts and came back and said, okay, how are we going to do that within our conferences? How are we going to help the families? So it's all just about moving forward, and that's really what the impact of those changes that we made. So the takeaway is, unleash people's passion to serve. So everyone's got gifts and skills, and if the families knew those gifts and skills were in us, and that we had skills with coaching or with budgeting, I think they would ask us. Maybe they only ask us for food because that's what they think that we do. And if you were a leader and you saw the gifts and skills in your groups, and you realized that they were there, would you not want to share those with the families? So that's the message, and back to you.
So you'll see a lot from our presentation is really about collaboration. So it's about really embracing that internal spirit, the Holy Spirit that we actually have, that has called us to the ministry, and that has called all of our volunteers that we work with on a regular basis to this ministry at the same time. So as you can see on the slide, it really is you start with your spirit, And then you're kind of moving through different levels where we all have different skill sets. We all bring something different to the table. And sometimes you can be a little bit frustrated, like, oh, I really wish someone would step up and do this. It may not be their skill set, it may not be within their comfort zone. So it's being very broad in your recruitment, as well as really talking about that passion that was just mentioned, letting people step up and take ownership within a particular area that they're really passionate and knowledgeable makes a really big difference. And those collaborative groups that Judith mentioned at the council level, it was as simple as one of those serving up hope days. At the very end of the day, we asked the question, so what? We've had a lot of really good conversations today. We talked about the need to work together with each other, so what are we going to do about it? And that's how we formed these cross-conference collaborative groups. So that ask is a current theme that's going through everything we talked about today. Sometimes it's just as simple as being brave enough to ask the question. And being okay in silence for a minute where someone can actually stop up and say, yes, I'd be interested in actually doing that. So if you don't make change, it's not going to happen. And so you would have seen on one of our earlier slides where we had down the bottom corner, new mindset, new results. And if you look at some of the research, if you look at Kotter's change model, we often think an event happens or a situation arises, and then there's a result. But we often forget about how we respond to the situations we face actually changes your results and your outcomes. So it's keeping that open mindset, always trying to push yourself a little bit more. We also tend to think that we try something and we'll get to the end. So we easily move from point A to point B. So I'm not sure if everyone can see the slide on the angle that you're on. But there is a lot of put on the brakes, that didn't work. But then you have to be courageous enough to turn the corner and try something else and realize that the road, just kind of like your journey in life, you think you're driving on a straight highway and all of a sudden there's a sharp curve. And it's what you do in those moments that are going to make a significant difference. We can't do it alone, right? It's about all of us together. And it's opportunities like this where we have people who've made change, people who are trying to make change. Just because these two really excellent volunteers have done a lot in their area doesn't mean that they've covered everything. The breadth of what we need to do is so large, but we can't get overwhelmed by that. There's a lot of potential with people coming together, brainstorming ideas, and then being motivated and passionate in sharing your spirit with other people, and you'll see the results of some of the changes that have taken place. So this kind of one, I just want you to think about this a little bit. And we often think that you go straight up the stairs from one step to another step. There are going to be days when you're in your volunteer work as well as in your life, you're like, I can't do it anymore. I've tried and tried and tried. I feel like I've hit that brick wall. So sometimes you're going to be the person leaping up all those stairs and you'll have your hand down to pull someone else up alongside you. And sometimes you're going to be on a stair below and someone else will help pull you up to the next step. But it's thinking about, don't get stuck on that step of, well, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure how to do it. Just give it a try. You'll be amazed what can actually happen.
Just
Compliments to the
Just
artist.
do it.
Compliments.
Yeah, that wasn't me. That's above my skill set. Sure.
Are you done? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead, ask a question.
It's not really a question. First of all, this presentation has just been awesome.
okay.
But and it has, I love it. But I'm the not so proud president of a silo, meaning I'm in isolation. So these ideas are so wonderful because there's a group, there's like layers where you get together and just sort of bring maybe a council is maybe thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind trying that. But they have heard from the bigger body, the next layer, I haven't figured the layers all out, I'm fairly new, that helps you to move along. So being in isolation, these things, I just wish sometime that there would be some tips for not so nice presidents in isolation, in a silo. Like, the only people that we have recruited are the people, because I'm from Stratford, born and raised in Stratford, I would reach out to you and say, does anyone else ask it? No, they don't. Our priest is 110% awesome. He's awesome. But I've gone to him and I said, Father, is there any way that we can create, that you could see it, just something that we could put into the church to have, it's a visual, right? Maybe, a couple people's names, oh, I'd like to do that. I mean, the only reason I got involved, and I'm disappointed in this as being a Catholic, the only reason, and you can tell by the way I talk, I wanted to be involved in this, so nobody asked me. I went to Father and said, I'm retired now, Father. I'm making funeral sandwiches and I want to be a part of this. Nobody came to me. So it just sort of really discourages me unless I'm asking people, and then, it's like, oh, well, there's Lori, she's got another friend of hers coming. Not in a negative way, but, spread it out, like, bring some of your friends in.
Exactly.
So it's very, like, this is wonderful, but it's very difficult for me to try to make that happen. Our closest would be like London or Kitchener. Well, that's still a distance away. And as for and I apologize for this statement, the old guard sort of like it this way. We're in the silo.
We all know.
Like, why would you want to do that, Lori? Well, just an idea.
So what we found in our council too, and I realize that, like, I'm hearing the geographic
Yeah, that's the issue.
barriers, but there's Skype. There are ways around it, but what we did with the cross-conference teams were so powerful because we are gathering strength, like, horizontally through. So people that the presidents may not have been open to some of the projects, but if we can grab people from, from the teams, and then we can link them with like-minded, positive people, they're gonna move.
There's a phrase that we like to use called enable the good. So you find those little pockets of strength and you build on them. And it doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't matter if it's your friends to start with, because the people that are complaining, they're the ones that need to change. You're already changing, right? So that is something we've had those hurdles in the past. I was one of them. I was one of those excited people at the beginning. People didn't like it.
Oh, no, they don't like it.
We also say resistance is futile. We're moving forward for the benefit of the families.
It's all about the families, and if we just keep focused on the families, we don't matter, because we're comfy.
Why do people think that St. Vincent de Paul is sort of it's secret, that isn't the right word. It's like Masons, the Knights of Columbus, it's secret handshakes. Why is it that it's, like, I know that we don't boast. Like, when we help people, we're not, standing out on the main street and saying, I'm St. Vincent de Paul and I help somebody at a food bank. But it's too much secretive. Like, I don't know hardly anything that goes on in the church, because everything, unless you're in that group, we take all these refugees and there's nobody standing up there saying how great we are.
One thing I was impressed with what you said that might address this very question is how you increase your visibility through things like a bulletin presence and also occasionally, I don't know how often you do this, once a year I get the chance, I'd like to do it twice, is to speak from the ambo or the pulpit about what we do, because many people, at least in Ottawa, think that St. Vincent de Paul is a store. They have no idea about the active home visits and the community outreach.
And that's why the communication and awareness building strategy, that's where we started from, because we realized people don't know what they don't know. Like, I didn't know about St. Vincent de Paul. But at the workshop that's going next door is going to be taped, so you can be able to access that off the website, but that's all the marketing